But should we talk about some email?
Yeah, let's do it. I guess first off, like, how was the entire sort of experience? I'll ask you that, like, in terms of working with the team, working with Ange, from the strategy to getting everything up and running to the QCing process. I'd just love your honest feedback, I guess, starting there on everything to kind of get your opinion on things.
Well, I think this experience has been really good because I'm used to paying someone, then not hearing from them in a couple of weeks, and then they deliver something and I'm not happy, and then you have to go into more week developing. And this was really quick in terms of feedback, continuous feedback, like really quick. And I think also because we're really professional in terms of the thought process behind the emails and how it's constructed. I really like that as well. I would say the best experience I've had so far. And even though, yeah, there's a price tag to it, I think it's definitely worth it, because if you pay someone half, then you're going to get half the work, and half the work doesn't mean half the results. You're going to get like 5% of the results. So I think it's, yeah, I'm very happy with how it went.
Awesome. Beautiful, man. That makes me super happy to hear. And, you know, it's obviously something we put a lot of care and effort into. And like, even myself working with other companies, working with other agencies on different projects, and also experiencing what you're saying, where like you kind of like pay something and then it kind of just like poofs, and like, I don't know, where stuff comes in and you're like, hold on, what is this? You know what I mean? But having experienced that and then re-engineering the whole process so that it's just more, I guess, seamless and everybody's sort of on the same page and like you're guided throughout the whole thing, I think is the main idea. So it makes me very happy and proud to hear that you just had a good experience overall. And now the most important thing is really just to see, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was, because the last agency back in December, the people who first built out my flows, I was looking at the design and I was like, this is so bad. Like, it was so bad. There was no, the design itself was bad, but also you could see there was no thought process behind it. They didn't do any research on my brand. Like, yeah, it was really bad. That was one thing I noticed about you guys too, was the research you guys did about my brand beforehand, because you made a document where you basically summed up most of the things about my brand and I made a strategy. And I was quite amazed by how accurate it was, because a lot of people, when I tell them I sell grass-fed protein bars, they immediately think there's beef inside. And that's, if I work with an agency or with someone and they deliver something where it says there's beef inside, I immediately know they haven't done any research about my brand, because that's the first thing you have to know from making. You look at the ingredients, you look at the designs, and I think that was really impressive.
I love it, man. And there's a quote by Abraham Lincoln where he's like, you know, if I'm given 4 hours to chop down a tree, I'm going to spend the first 3 sharpening the axe.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in that. It's like, if you're going to prepare something, like the preparation behind it, the foundation that you build on is the most important thing. And so that's really the idea behind it, is really doing, like, taking the time, man, to do the research, to really understand the product, understand the target market, understand the psychology and the path that we want to guide people in, depending on the life cycle stage they're in, to actually get them to convert and then come back. That's the name of the game for retention. And that's really what moves the needle for most brands. So I'm happy to have given you a good experience.
Yeah, I think my perspective on, like, in terms of customer support and all of that, those things align very well with what you guys have done. I think the feeling you can give someone, even in the onboarding process, because that's like the first touch you have with each other, I think that's so important in terms of making someone feel like they're heard and someone values what they're making, values their time. That's one of the most important things, because if I look at the last company that built my flows, they didn't ask me anything. It was just a quick setup, and I paid quite some money for it, and I was like, these guys didn't negotiate anything. They didn't get to know me. They didn't get to know my company. So that's really shitty, and I would never go back to that again, because they've lost me as a customer, and I think that's really bad as a business.
Yeah. And even you, just seeing how you operate with Cowmit yourself and how you're reaching out to clients, like you're getting on calls, you're doing research, you're getting feedback. I think that's something that really resonated with me when we first started talking. I was like, okay, this guy gets it. Like, this guy is building something that is going to withstand not only the test of time, but that actually has scalability. And you're building this feedback loop system in the product and in the company, where you're working directly with the people that are actually consuming your products. And that's, in my opinion, that's what keeps you as most nimble. And like, man, so many e-com brands out there that could be 2-3 times as big as they are now, if only they took the actual time to do that. And for you, having started the company with that mentality and growing in through that, in my opinion, is going to be the biggest differentiator, you know, in the next 6 months, 12 months, as you really start to scale, because not a lot of people do it. And that's like, I think there's definitely a fright factor to it. It's like, you spend so much time building a product, building a brand, and the last thing that you want to do is risk getting on a call with someone and they're like, this sucks. Or like, you hear some bad feedback, or like, I didn't like this, I didn't like that. And for like me being a founder myself and having sold and exited my own brand, like, I can see why that's a very scary thing. And it takes courage to actually go out there and talk to your customers. But even the part that you said about direction that I just think we're heading in as a whole. Like you take a look at Andromeda and you take a look at how Facebook's algorithm has been evolving over the last couple months and a year, and how now, before we had the targeting and people who own 400K homes and people who like dogs and people who might have a cat, but now it's like all that has gone out the door and the targeting is now automated. And how does it work? Well, you make a very specific ad for a very specific person and you speak directly to them. And that's the direction that we're moving in. So I think you're absolutely spot on. It's just the natural order of how things are moving, and the faster and quicker that we accept it and that we lean into it, like, because it takes courage to do it, the better the results are going to be and the more of a longer term brand that we can build. And even then, when we talk about like with the advancements of AI and how fast things are moving nowadays, and people are always talking about what's your moat, because everybody can create that product, everybody can just copy this. That's, in my opinion, what you just described a minute ago is the biggest moat that you can have. The customer loyalty and the customers that are like, dude, I know the fucking guy. I know Ward. I've spoken to him. He's asked me my feedback. And that referral, that experience that they go on and tell, that sort of testimonial that they give other people and publicly is worth its weight in gold for sure.
All right, let's dive into some email. Can you share your screen?
Yeah, for sure. So let me share my screen here. So what I want to do is I want to very briefly go over, let's just go like from the top of the system, sort of like the bottom. So I know we got all of these flows. We've been launching them as they become ready, but I know it's been maybe like a week or so since we've like officially gotten everything live.
So I disabled the replenishment flow, by the way. I did that on purpose because
cool.
I'll show you why after you're done.
Okay, cool. What I want to look at is first, I want to take a look at Aaliyah and what we were doing before on the pop-up, because that's where you had your email capture set up. For some reason, I'm having trouble logging into the Shopify. I do have the chat history of us on Slack. And so the historical performance was 4% on the opt-in for the Aaliyah setup. So we rebuilt it on Klaviyo, and let's take a look at what we're sitting at right now. As you know, we launched 3 different variations of the actual pop-up to split test what works the best. And so far we have the static image, which is actually performing the best, not only in actual revenue for the most part, but the actual submit rate is 8.83% average since we launched this test about 2 weeks ago.
Pretty nice.
So 8.83, double the conversion that we were getting with Aaliyah, which means double the amount of people that are coming in, which is great. We have a 93 euro average order value, which is fucking awesome. We've gotten 16 orders. And as an overview, month to date, since we launched this on the 29th, we're averaging it at 6.5. So still 2.5 points over what we were doing with Aaliyah, which is awesome. But the average is going to be a little bit higher once the test actually concludes and we select the automatic winner as the static image. Well, I'm curious to see how that continues to play out. But check this out really quick. If you take a look at what you had in terms of RPR, so this was your old welcome flow, the Aaliyah Fed pop-up. Is a welcome flow that we launched. You can see that this went down on June 29th. This went up on June 29th. If we look at March to July 14th, which gives us like an equal amount of time between both periods, you can see that your revenue per recipient was $1.15 on this welcome flow, and we've doubled that. So you're making double the amount of revenue from the same amount of people that are actually coming into your welcome flow. And this is only 2 weeks in. So from a welcome flow perspective, I'm very happy with this so far, just because, we're making double the amount of revenue, and it really just goes to show what the importance of the research that we do. It goes to show the importance of like the actual understanding of the target market, the understanding of how we're actually approaching them and things like this. So super excited about that.
And also you mentioned something about the text-based emails you were gonna test. I was curious about those too.
Yeah. So what we generally do is we let these run for a whole 30 days of data from the moment each flow is launched. And after we capture those 30 days of data, then what we do is we actually go back and we look at the highest leverage touch points in each flow, and we can launch those plain text email tests to see how they stack up against sort of the beautiful designed emails that we've created. But that's sort of the idea is split testing what type of content actually converts better, right? Because all of these are design text, and this is very different from what you're currently doing, which is obviously sending more plain text-based stuff, more personable stuff. And so far we're seeing a double conversion rate on the revenue per recipient for the welcome flow, which is great. But ultimately we are going to want to test this with the plain text to see if it actually performs better, or if it performs worse. And if it performs better, then great. We just leave that touch point as a plain text, and we just go testing different touch points to see which ones reply or respond better to the plain text, and keep those bad boys running basically.
I also could see a lot of difference in the subject lines in terms of open rates on the emails. That was quite interesting.
Yeah, that's one of the beautiful things of of what we do is from the get-go, we actually test the subject lines. And the reason behind that is because we know that before we actually test the content, the actual design of the emails or the plain text of the emails, the first thing we have to do is we have to maximize the open rate of these emails. So if you come over here, you can see that we've got a 13.3% click rate, a 13.3 place order rate, which is fucking ridiculous. But if we go to the A/B test, you can see, here we go. We've got this one that has a little bit of a better, and again, there's not a lot of data, 8 deliveries versus 7, but you've got a higher open rate on this one, a lower open rate, but you've got a higher click rate on this one. So we just test to see which subject line actually converts better. And then based on that, we know that we have to a certain degree maximize the engagement in terms of opens. And now we can actually go in and test the next layer, which is the actual content of the emails.
I think one email that had really a lot of data was where they pick all 3 options in the welcome flow.
6% placed order is really solid, man. I mean, look, this is a perfect example right here. You have this, and I don't read Dutch, but you can see like this subject line and this preview text did nowhere as near as good on the open rates are virtually the same, but look at the fucking click rates. Double the amount of people are actually buying off of variation B, and you have a much higher average order value, and you have 2 more recipients have purchased on variation B versus variation A. And this is one of the most simple tests to launch, and most people don't even fucking do this, which is crazy.
I'm curious to see if we, after the 30 days, we pick the winners and then go for the text-based A/B test, what that's going to do. I think that's going to improve it even more.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I'm really excited to see how this plays out over the next 30 days. And then we can obviously reconvene, take a look at all of the data, see what the performance looks like, and then make informed decisions on what the next round of testing looks like. We've done a really good job up until now. The designs hit very well. The tone is on point. The vibe of the emails, the branding is spectacular. So this has been a really fun project, man. And I'm going to want to make a case study out of this eventually, if it's cool with you, kind of the whole process and everything we've done.
I would say the best experience I've had so far.
I'm really happy with it.